good morning, good people, fellow humans. And I spell that Huemonds, colorful nuts. And that's how we should think of ourselves, not as filthy rags, not as not worthy. We're just colorful nuts, just like little children stumbling and bumbling our way through this life. Don't take ourselves too seriously. After all, we are in Pahrump or Pahrumpertucky. Bonk, if you prefer. Hard scrabble, rootin' tootin' pistol packing people. And as I say, you can always tell somebody from Pahrump, you just can't tell them much. So that's okay. Good. Rats. Rats, oh rats, oh rats. It's been a big day so far. Boom, bum, 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 boom. Got it. Okay. Your IPP is due. What the heck is that? Oh, okay. Cool. Cruel DeVille. Okay. Here we are once again, Department of Career Services, where our goal is to help our students and interested people on their journey through this life. Starting with the premise that we have a transcendent soul, the soul that continues after death. And it continues on the trajectory we are on. It's about transformation and trajectory. As Jesus said, repent and believe in the good news, etc., etc. Okay, what else? Okay, today's theme is creativity in the AI world. Right, that's a big one. This is a very important one. Might be putting something on Substack about this one. More about that later. Advice from an 80-year-old. Begin each day with some of your favorite music. Begin each day with some of your favorite music. That's kind of like sometimes it's best to take the scenic route, right? Okay. Don't take life so seriously. Enjoy the ride. Enjoy the journey. Okay. Seth Godin, making it whole. Integrity is the act of being in and of itself from every angle. Integrity is the act of being in and of itself from every angle. As we see the bait and switch of the online networks and monopolists, it's easy to imagine that nothing with integrity stays that way very long. The systems we support almost always end up trading a straightforward clarity about what they do for a facade that's easy to fall into and hard to get out of. Big businesses usually succumb to short-term compromises that corrupt the mission that built their brand in the first place. The opportunity, then, is to find a career path that's a whole. In calculus, the integral takes an infinite number of tiny slices and resembles them in a coherent result. Each slice is infinitesimal, almost nothing on its own, yet the accumulation produces something real. We don't need each moment to be grand. We need it to be of the same function. showing up consistently in ways that cohere. In the movies, there's plenty of stirring music when the hero has to make their choice. But in our lives, there isn't a single moment. Instead, there are a million of them. The way we show up will rarely be perfect, but perfect isn't the point. Countless tiny decisions add up to a whole. It helps to be clear about the purpose of the work we're here to do. In the words of Hugh MacLeod, the market for something to believe is infinite. The market for something to believe in is infinite. Everybody wants to believe in something. P.S. I just finished the first draft of my new book, The Knot, which will publish this September from Authors Equity. If you're interested in pre-ordering the audiobook and being part of a small beta test community, I built a page explaining how you can join us. I'll take this link down once the cohort is full. Okay, so I'm after this, but where are we at? Today is the monthly pastors meeting at the Lutheran Church. It's also school tonight, 6 to 9, prepared. New thesis, let me get it out on the record. There will be something on Substack. But what we're studying is about the class's restorative justice. And versus criminal justice. Removing harm rather than punishing. Focusing on the victim, not the offender. This is the 25th anniversary book of the guy who is the leader of this. This book is 11 years old. So this book is older than Amazon. The ideas in this book are older than Amazon. They're older than Google. They haven't caught on. Should they be put out of their misery? Maticus von Atticus has joined the conversation. Okay, good. Glad you're here. 5 days in a row. Good job, Maticus von Atticus, Untersergeant Ordinaire. Good. Okay, so why hasn't restorative justice caught on? And why haven't we just put it to sleep? Will it catch on? So restorative justice, I have always said, does not work in a criminal justice system, because in a criminal justice system, you're innocent until proven guilty. In a restorative justice system, in order to remove harm, the offender has to take responsibility for what they did. So restorative justice cannot fit in a criminal justice society. And the stuff we study is mainly after the fact. After the victim, who also becomes a victim of the state, because the state doesn't include them in the prosecution of the offender and care about removing their harm. After the offender has been convicted, is incarcerated, there is a movement for victims and offenders to get together to remove their mutual harm, because now the offender becomes a victim of the state, because it is just retribution, as there's no repairing harm. And if you were damaged as a child and you just lived out what you were socialized to do, punishment isn't really the ideal solution. Okay, so restorative justice comes along and says, we're going to remove the harm, but it's been 29 years. No, it's been 36 years of publishing books like this, doing little things post-incarceration, not removing the harm, but kind of healing the harm. Okay, so I put that in my first paper, and my professor said, good, for your final paper, figure it out. Not really, but sort of. Okay, so I think I got it. And here's what it is. The trend in the US is that women are taking positions, becoming the majority of positions in many, many, many fields. Medicine, higher education, veterinarians, all kinds of things. There's more women than men. And what happens is once the tipping point occurs, the culture changes to a more feminized, that's a value neutral term, feminization occurs, which is a more taking on the traits of women. Cohesion, consensus versus arbitrariness and rules and objectivity, etc. Male traits, masculine traits. So as the tipping point occurs in the industry, the domain becomes feminized, the culture changes. But it hasn't changed in criminal justice. In fact, the opposite has happened. Now there are more females in law school. I think in the last year or two, there are more female instructors. Yet, the criminal justice statistics are getting worse. Sentencing is longer, more people incarcerated, etc. So why hasn't feminization occurred in the criminal justice system? Why hasn't restorative justice kicked in? And I have an argument for that. And then I've been doing deep research to see if anyone else has come to the same conclusion, come to the same results that I have. And the deep research has said, no, my idea is unique. Part two would be why I have a unique view of it. The answer has to do with AI, mastering the domain, versus Mahali's, you need to master the domain. This is mastering the domain by using AI. Anyway, back to the subject. Why hasn't restorative justice kicked in? Because restorative justice is the feminization of criminal justice. Restorative justice, but why hasn't it kicked in 36 years? No, 39 years. Why hasn't it kicked, whatever? Why hasn't restorative justice kicked in as feminization has occurred in every other industry that it has touched once the tipping point has been reached? How come it hasn't occurred in criminal justice, in the legal system? And I argue that it's because it takes a 2-generation transformation. In other words, it will only occur once women in law school are taught by women. The first generation, where we are now, of female judges are female judges who went to law school and their professors were predominantly male. So they had to learn, they learned and they had to adapt to a masculine-oriented criminal justice system. And the facts, the statistics, the evidence shows that these women had to be more masculine than the masculines to demonstrate that they fit into a man's world. So Kamala Harris is the kind of the poster child for the evidence of this, because when she ran, it was she's tougher than men on crime. So a woman, first generation women who graduated from law school, that were most of their instructors were men. Now that women are, the majority of law school professors are women, the women who graduate from law schools that were taught by women will be able to introduce more feminine traits, feminine cultural issues. And though the feminization, restorative justice will not occur in the system until judges are predominantly women who went to law school and were taught by women. That is the thesis. And it seems to hold true because in the other industries, there wasn't the same constraint of when you go to medical school, you become a doctor, you do your thing, you're a doctor, you don't have somebody above you that is pushing the system down upon you. In other words, you can't not be successful as a surgeon unless you do things the male way. Once you become a surgeon, you're free to do what you want. But in the legal profession, you have a judge. So you can be as restorative justice as you want, but if the judges are predominantly criminal justice, restorative justice will be thwarted. It won't be. So the aha moment is once the majority of judges are women who went to law school and were predominantly taught by women, once that occurs, restorative justice will kick in. And that's inevitable. And the statistics are that'll happen between the year 2040 and 2045. By the year 2040 and 2045, most of the judges in this country will be women who went to law school and were taught by women. However, there's a caveat to that, and that is AI. Because with AI, mastering the domain accelerates things. So people have the ability to learn and change faster. So it could be 7 years before that. It could be by the early 2030s that the criminal justice system is replaced by a restorative justice system, but it's inevitable. It's going to happen. Feminization will happen in the legal industry once most of the judges are women who went to law school taught by women. Ta-da! Okay, it's on the record. That's it. That is the aha thing. Feminization is sweeping the country. It's touched many, in every industry where women are now the majority. The shift is from masculine to feminine characteristics of cohesion, consensus versus arbitrary evidence, things like that, versus the masculine approach. Everywhere feminization has occurred, there has been a shift, except legal industry. And I argue it hasn't happened in the legal industry because the women who are coming out were taught by men to fit into the masculine dominated system. And the tipping point will occur when the majority of women coming out of law school were taught by the majority of women coming out of law school were taught mostly by women professors in law school. And then once those women who were taught by women become judges and prosecutors, then the system will inevitably flip to a restorative system. The question is, what will that system look like? And the further part of my argument is we need an Ignatian framework for it. So, that Atticus von Atticus, you are exactly correct, and you prove the point, and you're going to be in the studies because part of it is talks about Hetzapetza is a neutralizer to the system. And you are right. Your opponent was a female prosecutor, but she is the generation that most of her professors were men. So she takes on masculine traits, and she's more hardline than most men. And voila. And with that, we're going to say good job once again, Maticus, Von Atticus, and cut.